Hello and welcome to this World Anvil video. My name is Guy and today we are looking at the template Geography. Geography is fairly expansive and very important to your world. And the Geography template does not let you down. You've got a whole lot of tabs. Secrets is one that's particularly nice to have on this geographic or template, on the Geography template, because it allows you to add in things that only you or certain characters know, depending on what subscription you have with World Anvil. You can go and check out their technical videos on their website to see how to set those up. But Geography, where do we start? Well, I start with one of three things. Either I start with a map, so I already have a map, whether that's a stellar map of a galaxy or a universe that I'm going to be playing in, or a regional map of a castle and the surrounding territories. I always start with a map. And how you draw those, you can go and have a look on the channel. There's a whole bunch of tutorials on how to draw maps, both stellar maps and local maps as well, using various different map platforms and programs out there, or good old pen and paper, whatever's up to you. So start with an image, start with a map that looks good. So if you've got a map, that's great. Second one, I've already mentioned it, start with an image. Maybe you have a picture of a valley in pristine condition, or is it a lunar landscape with different planets rising in the background? Whatever it is, look at the image. And then finally, you can start with a vision. You have this idea in your head of floating islands, perhaps. They're floating above an azure sea, or maybe it's purple, maybe the sea's purple. So you can start with one of those three areas. There might be other ways to come up with geography, I'm not entirely sure, but these are the three that I look at. I then look at it as an individual thing. I look at the map and I go, all right, so there are these mountains on the edges of the map. Right, that's the geography I'm going to be talking about, is this particular mountain range, the Great Kush mountain range, or whatever they might be called. If it's an image, perhaps it's about describing that particular valley, looking at the mountains that surround it, or perhaps the open plains that surround it. Maybe you're going to talk about those open plains. And if it's a vision in your head, well, we've already spoken about this purple ocean and these floating islands. We're going to talk about the purple ocean in particular. With the Geography tab, I would describe areas, regions that are linked together. So not something that would work in, say, isolation. If it's a forest, you're talking about the whole forest. But you're not talking about the forest plus the plains on the either side of it, plus the village over there. Don't go too encompassing with this particular template. Use it for its value to describe specific areas. That's what you're wanting to do. Now, what I then do is I list what I think should happen. So if we're talking a mountain range, what do I think we need in mountain ranges? We need mountains, we need cliffs, we need names for the different mountains. That's something that we love doing here on Earth, so I don't see why it shouldn't translate into your game. We need names for the different mountains, and then maybe some rivers that flow through the mountains, and maybe some plateaus, and that's about it. I list the mundane. I call it the mundane as in it's what we expect to be there. So if we're talking floating islands or that purple ocean, what do we expect about that purple ocean? We expect waves, we expect sea life, the normal sort of stuff, some sharks, some whales, some jellyfish, that kind of thing. So I list the normal. Then I go back and I then list the cool stuff. So if it's the purple ocean, is it the fact that the fish swimming inside this purple ocean, they are all invisible? Or perhaps maybe they're all spiny, perhaps they're all carnivorous, perhaps they're all herbivorous, perhaps they feed on sunlight. So they've got these large, open, iridescent fins that catch the sunlight. So they don't actually feed on one another. Perhaps that's one group and there's another group that does feed on them. Perhaps the waves of this ocean, they don't roll over normally, they collide together and burst into rainbows. I really have no idea. It's your world, you're describing it. If that's what they do, that's what they do. And you could argue that water becomes the rainbow eventually if you really want to go broad spectrum. If it's in a mountain range, are there some mountains that are shaped in a cool way that look like the cowl of a monk? In my own home country of South Africa, in the Drakensberg, the mountain range, the Drakensberg, which means the dragon's back, the dragon's home, if you like. Because it looked like a dragon's back, the Drakensberg, the Dragonberg. In that there is a mountain called Monk's Cowl, because it looks like the cowl of a monk with a nose sticking out of it and It's very, very impressive as a particular piece of geography. So you then list the cool, and then you can break it down even further into the particular types of flora and fauna that are in there. What are the natural resources that can come out of there, so that you can add it in, of course. If you've set up your rulers, your regions, you can add those in. If you've got organizations that own, you can add that in, of course, in the parent location. Where does it come from? Now, you can link maps within World Anvil to those different locations, and you can link locations to maps, so you can really build up a phenomenal database where you have a map and you link from that map to this particular geographical description. So you are never left without the ability to link together all of your geography plus your maps plus your images and the people and organizations that own it and that go with it. I hope this has inspired you to perhaps take a slightly different approach to designing geography next time. It isn't just pretty scenery in the background. It isn't stuff that your players are going to have to climb over or blow up. It is there to serve a purpose, and that purpose is to make your world feel real. So adding in cool things, looking at the base mundane stuff, sometimes we forget that just simply climbing over a mountain is a challenge in itself, let alone describing it as having moving or floating rocks, or rocks that when banged together create electricity. That's entirely up to you. Until next time, light up the forge.